we are recording.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to our podcast. I'm so glad to have you guys.
Yes, it's good to see you.
How was your week, David?
My week has been pretty good. In fact, today I just bought a cinema camera.
Ooh, you've been wanting one for so long.
Yes, I got the Canon C70 for any of you camera fanatics out there.
I'm very proud of you. You've wanted it for so long. You've waited for, over a year?
Yes.
Yeah.
I've been looking for cameras for over a year, and the C70 came out late 2020, and then after it came out, I was like, this is the one I want. This is a great camera, affordable price for what it is.
I'm very proud of you, waiting until now to buy it.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Of course. I love seeing you happy.
And I love seeing you happy.
Well, thank you.
How was your week?
My week was pretty good. For the first time in a long time, I've got all of my classwork up to date, and I'm only a little bit behind now. This semester has been crazy for me. Not to get too off topic here, but I'm taking 4 core classes this semester.
Wow.
For computer science. So it's very strenuous work, and I'm taking a programming class on top of it, which is already hard. So yeah, but I feel more comfortable with what we're learning, and I'm getting more up to date with my stuff. Nothing is late work technically. It's just bigger projects that I've been behind on, but I'm doing better now. I feel a lot better than I was last week. So yeah, I'm feeling great today.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
I'm glad to hear that. It's really good to see you smile and just to hear that you're doing better. I love that.
I love you.
I love you too. All right. Should we dive into the topic today?
I think we should.
Okay. So today's topic is more about kind of how technology becomes obsolete as time goes on, some of the older technology.
So for those of you who kind of want to ease into this topic and aren't really kind of sure what we're going to be talking about, so all of my Apple fans out there, I know some of you still have that iPhone 5 and it's just running so slow and you just want to get rid of it. And you just feel so pressured to buy the brand new one that came out, but you don't want to shell out the thousands of dollars for one.
Exactly.
So we're talking about stuff kind of like that, how these items we have that we only even bought a few years ago are just becoming obsolete and you can't even use them anymore efficiently.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And I know that I remember hearing that Apple was facing a really big lawsuit because they were dishing out updates that were slowing down older phones, so that way you had to buy newer ones.
I've definitely heard that. I knew somebody who got it was some insignificant amount, I think it was something like 10 cents they got because it happened to their phone. But the fact is that they did it,
Yeah, exactly. And that's really terrible of them to do, because I heard of companies doing this in the past, and I don't know if Android has done it at all, but I heard about that Apple did that.
The thing is with that is stuff is already becoming obsolete so quickly. I don't even understand why they have to do that or why they feel like they have to do that.
Right.
Because there's people out there who are just insanely obsessed with Apple as a product. So they will just drop $1,500 on a new phone right when it comes out. So I don't understand why they have to then take those older models and purposely make them shitty, if you know what I mean.
Right. And it kind of just, I guess, screws over the type of people that really can't afford those $1,500 phones right as they come out. Really good example is my family, right? My mom, she still has the iPhone SE, the old one back from 2016.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, it's really, really slow, and her battery is really messed up. I think it's more of a software thing because it'll show that it has like 100%, and then in 3 minutes it'll be at like 20%, and then she'll slap it on the charger for like a minute and a half and it'll be at like 84%. It just jumps around like crazy. Sometimes it'll shut itself off at 60%. It's just really random, and I feel like she needs a new phone, but she can't afford it.
Yes, that's how my grandma is. So for those of you who have diabetes, you know what I'm talking about. There's these things that my grandma uses, and they're sensors that she has to change every 2 weeks to check her blood sugar. And this is the only reason why we have her having an iPhone, is so she can scan that sensor to get her blood sugar instead of having to prick her finger like 5 times a day. So
Right.
she has the same issue with her phone. She has an iPhone 7, I believe, and the battery runs out so quick. And my grandma does not know how to use her phone. The only reason she uses her phone is when she's picking up a call from one of my uncles or my mom, or she's checking her blood sugar. So I don't understand why when we unplug it for 1 second, it goes from 83% to 2%. Oh, and it doesn't even charge all the way to 100%. It stays at 83%.
That's wild. That's got to be a software thing, right? Because there's no way that the hardware is that defective that it wouldn't go above 83.
I would imagine so, and I'm sure that it's just along the lines of what we were just talking about, how Apple is like purposely making their older products crappy and not work.
Yeah, exactly. And it's not, I mean, we're not like dissing Apple by any means. We're just saying that, like, you know, some of their older products, they just don't work as well. And it's kind of fishy because a lot of other companies' older products still work.
Yeah, and take it from me. I'm somebody who has a MacBook, an iPad, an Apple Watch, iPhone. I have all these products, so I'm not dissing Apple by any means. It's just I think sometimes their ethics are not great.
Yes, I definitely agree.
It's unfortunate because a lot of these computers and like products that they're putting out are like good quality to start out with. Like they're great. I love my computer. I got my MacBook Air for graduation, and I've used it almost every single day since I graduated in 2017, and it still works great.
That's fantastic.
That's actually what I'm recording on right now. But it's great for these projects, but it's unfortunate that as my devices are getting older, they just become terrible, even though they started out amazing.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And I don't know, did Apple start before Microsoft? I think the Macintosh came out before Microsoft did.
I think it did, because I think Bill Gates or whoever owns Microsoft was a part of like Apple before Microsoft, and they like switched over. I don't know about that.
Oh, okay. But yeah, like the history of tech has been pretty crazy. Like back in the 80s is when like things really kind of started booming with the technology sector, and then it has had an exponential growth over time. Nothing has been very linear about it. Like each year technology advances faster and faster and faster. And when you look at something like 1995, back when they had laptops, they had like those big huge like brick laptops that were like 20 pounds, and it's pretty crazy. They would only have somewhere around 64 megabytes of RAM, and that would be the thing that was booming. If you had 64 megabytes of RAM, you were hot stuff, man.
Oh, like, yeah.
And I even have a short clip for us to watch from 1995 about this lady purchasing a laptop. So let's go ahead and take a look.
For many newcomers, PC stands for pain and confusion.
Jamie Gold is about to buy her first computer. She hardly knows where to start.
How do you turn this one on?
She's the kind of customer that is turning the industry upside down.
What does the 4 megabyte memory mean versus...
Jamie Gold spent $2,800 buying into the sales pitch that computers are now easy to use. But it's still not just another household appliance.
Installation disc number 1. I don't know which the interface cable is. What the hell is a power module? I'm not dumb. Hold on. There's nothing that looks like this. I don't hear it.
Jamie is gridlocked with plenty of company.
I have no idea what this disk drive is. No idea.
So yeah, this clip just kind of shows how back in 1995, buying PCs was a lot different than it is today. But nowadays, if you have a 64 gigabytes of RAM in your system, then you're also booming. And so like that is just a difference of what, 25 years, 26 years between 1995 and now. I'm really curious as to what's going to be out in the next 26 years from now.
I know. It really makes you think, because both of our career paths are like technology based. So it's going to be crazy seeing all this new like technology that comes out. It really makes me excited, but at the same time, it makes me nervous as well.
I know. It seems to be that it's a little bit harder to keep up with all the new stuff that's out. I always find myself actively searching like what's new in technology today, because I don't want to fall behind the curve, just because that does follow along the line of my career path.
Not to get too off topic here, but I think when all these new innovations come out and you can already see it happening, you notice that these people were kind of raised with technology, like me and you. Like, we were raised with like laptops becoming a thing and like social media becoming a thing. So we've just grown up with it. So we already kind of know how to use computers. But these younger kids, they don't understand how to use a computer like we do. They can use their little tablets all day, their crusty little iPads.
Right.
They can use those all day, every day. They know the ins and outs. But when it comes to using a computer and using it for schoolwork, they're just like boomers. Like, they're so lost. And I think that just comes with how fast technology is advancing, and it just adds to that sort of ignorance of people. So you really have to like keep up to date. And I think that these companies that do this, they also take advantage of this ignorance. Like, there's so much that these tech companies get away with, and we just let them, because half of the people aren't even aware what's going on.
Oh yeah, I absolutely agree. And if you look at Apple's new M1 chip, their processor, it's not that great of a processor, but the way they market it makes it sound like it's some new revolutionary stuff, even when it's not. And it again, like you said, it's taking advantage of these younger people's ignorance, and they're just like, because they're just thrown into the fire of all this new stuff that they just don't know what is what and what is good. And for those of you who don't know exactly what a processor is, it's basically the heart of a computer. It's what makes a computer faster or slower when it comes to any sort of computations or running certain things. It's kind of hard to explain. Like, running games is more on the graphics card or the GPU, but the processor does have an account in there. It does matter. It's again, basically the heart of the system.
Isn't that what helps you like open up programs and stuff like that? I know that like the RAM goes into that, but isn't it also like the CPU as well?
It can affect, yes. The RAM and the CPU, which the CPU is the processor, the RAM and the CPU do talk hand in hand, but that does also, opening files is also limited to your hard drive. If you have a solid state drive or a hard disk, that is more reliant on that. But the processor, if you have a really slow processor, files will open pretty slowly. But circling back to how you said the younger generations are being more ignorant towards this, or just not knowing what the technology is these days, just because there's so much. It kind of reminds me of back when I was in coding in Java, when I was a computer science major. When we first started in Java, we had all these different sort of parts to the code that would automatically do things for you. And sometimes I wouldn't know if there was part of the code that would automatically do stuff like a keyword, or if you had to actually create that as a function.
Yes. That's how it is for C++ too. I'm like, I have no idea if this is just something that you just type and the computer just knows what you're wanting, or if it's something you have to like assign, you know?
Exactly. It's the worst. And for those people that started in the beginning of it, they do know, because they started from the very baseline of what it was, and then they built up, and as they come out with updates, all these new keywords start showing up, and it's just like, it's really confusing for even you and I. But like you said, with the younger generation, with the new technology, it gets confusing to them. And I feel like that's kind of a similar thing, because they're being thrown into the fire of all this new stuff that they have to get the context of the old stuff to understand this new stuff. And it's just a lot more work.
Exactly. So I know it's a stereotype that like the older generations, as I would say boomers, they don't really understand technology, which I think is crazy to think about, because they like were right next to it growing up, you know what I mean? Like they got development of the internet and like the TV. I mean, the TVs were already around, but like color TVs and stuff like that. It's just crazy. And like these video game systems and the internet in general. So I don't understand why they don't understand, if that makes sense.
Yeah, exactly. And it does. I've always wondered that too, how they've started out with all this and they know the context of it, but they've never kept up with it. And it's people like me, because I work in IT, and it's people like me that has to help them walk through how to open a PDF or set their programs to open this as a default thing.
I think, now that I think about it more, I really think that it leads to them kind of thinking it's a trend. So I think that maybe like when the internet and like TVs and all this, like, I mean, I keep saying TVs as if this wasn't something I was going out. But I think that when things such as these video game consoles came out and the internet and these big bulky computers started coming out, I think they really didn't think they were going to have to use them. They're like, oh, this is just a trend and we'll just never use these again and whatever. The old ways work better. So I think they didn't realize how huge the internet was going to become, you know?
That's a fantastic point. I never thought about that. And yeah, since technology and the internet itself has grown so exponentially, it's probably hard for them to keep up with, because they didn't think it would stick, or they thought it was a trend.
Or I just keep getting good points. I'm sorry, but they might have also they put off learning it for so long and they started having kids, but their kids knew it. So they kind of just relied on the kids, which would be like my parents' age, Gen X, to kind of understand that technology. And then it just kind of like dogpiled from there, you know?
Yeah, it kind of snowballed where like your parents' kids, being you and I kind of thing, our age group would teach them the new stuff, and then who knows, maybe even our kids and then their kids and their kids would do the same.
Well, exactly. Like I remember as a kid learning how to use a computer and and being given those big computer games, you know what I'm talking about?
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Like the Freddy Fish or whatever.
Right.
So I remember using those and going to the computer lab and doing that, but I know at my mom's age, she didn't have that.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think part of it is because we grew up with it, so we kind of, like, young kids are like sponges with information, so we just kind of learn it faster.
Exactly. And I think that also kind of happened with video games as well, because I remember being a kid. I mean, I'm not super old by any means. I mean, video games were out, but I mean, the first system that we were ever given, which was from my cousin, we were given Nintendo 64, and I still have one and I love it. But
it's a great console.
Yeah, I don't think my parents, like, they didn't understand any of it, and they're like, oh, like, this is just a trend or whatever, and I'm sure it's not really going to be a thing in the future, you know, like, they'll have it, but it's not going to be huge. But now there's esports and there's all of this stuff, and they just assumed it was going to become obsolete, you know?
Yeah, or maybe not grow as fast or as big as it is now.
Exactly. Like, I think that's probably what a lot of this, like, these older generations' ignorance comes from, is that they just didn't really think how big this stuff was going to be. Like, I think about it sometimes. If you go back to, like, 1980 and just gave a random person on the street an iPhone, they would shit their pants. They'd be like, what is this?
I think about that so much. I was like, if I went back to, say, 1975 and just tried to explain the internet to someone, it would be nearly impossible.
Exactly. Like, you could show them literally, like, even anything now that's, like, very obsolete. Like, you could show them some, like, Palm Pilot, and they'd be like, oh my god, that's so cool. Bro, wait until you see an iPhone 11.
Yeah, exactly. They'd be like, you have a whole camera and it's digital? What is digital? You know what I'm saying? Like,
wait until you see our cars, bud. We got phones
Yeah.
in there. We got streaming in there. They're like, what's streaming?
these cars can drive themselves.
They would lose it.
They would. It's crazy. And I want to circle back real quick. I know it's a little off topic, back to the little game console that you had. My parents, or my mom actually, she worked for Blockbuster, and yeah, she did. And she would always get Super Nintendo games for free. And they bought a Super Nintendo back when it was like really popular, and my dad would play it all the time, and then he introduced it to my brother and I, and that's kind of the first console I grew up on. And then we got the Nintendo 64, and then I remember on Christmas Day one day opening up the GameCube.
Oh,
And
yes.
I know it makes me feel super old to think about that, but I'm just like, I'm 23 and I'm not really that old, but it makes me feel old to think, dang, like a GameCube was new age technology. And then you look at like some of the graphics and even specs, literal hardware specs of game consoles today, and it's insane. The technology has grown so fast.
And one thing that kind of made me realize how fast we are really moving as a technological society, I went to go play my Nintendo 64 probably last year, and I've got like a nice 55-inch flat screen TV. Not to brag, but it's important. So I plug it in there, and the game was so laggy. It was almost impossible to play it.
Oh no.
Because it lagged so bad, because it's not meant for like these newer TVs.
Yeah, exactly. And I was even looking up quite a while back just things about that. And I remember when I was a kid, when 4K kind of came out for TVs, and I remember going to Best Buy and seeing these like 60-inch 4K TVs sell for like $4,000. I was like, wow, I'll never have one of those. And now you can get a 60-inch 4K TV for $350.
Yes. I remember being so jealous of those rich people you were friends with. You know what I'm talking about. They always had like those big old TVs in their entertainment center, and you were so jealous because their TV was so huge. It probably weighed 1,000 pounds because it got that fat ass back on it, and you thought it was the coolest thing ever. Like, Mom, why can't we have one of these giant heavy TVs? And it always
CRT TVs.
Yes,
yeah.
And it always looked so cool. I was always so jealous. I'm like, wow, I want one of these massive TVs. If you think about it now, they probably don't even have like a good like image quality, you know?
Well, yeah, absolutely. And even my family, we had a 32-inch CRT TV up until 2014. And that's what we had in our living room the whole time up until 2014. We were way behind the curve to upgrade any of our technology.
I'm pretty sure that we still have one here. Our TV is so old. We got it in 2008. And we still have the same TV, and it's old.
Wow.
And my parents still use it. I can't relate. I needed to upgrade, because I do play video games on my TV, so I can't do it with a old, because it's thick too. It's kind of thick, but it was one of the super nice ones back in the day that was like a flat screen. But as I said, it had a big fat ass on it, so it wasn't even flat, but it was way flatter than the other one. So we're just like, wow, they probably spent so much money on it back then, and now it's just, they need to upgrade.
Yeah. You can probably find one of those for like $25 on Facebook Market or eBay.
Yes. There's like a print kind of on the side where it like there's an image burned in it. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah. They need to
TV on too long.
Yes. They need to upgrade so bad.
I hate when that happens. My dad used to always tell my brother and I, stop leaving the TV on. It's going to burn a hole in it. And oh, do you remember when they had those degauss buttons where you would push it and it would wiggle the screen and make those little green and magenta things go away?
Yes.
Back when you couldn't put magnets near your TV.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I feel like embracing the acceptance of newer technology is always a good thing. And even with my family, my dad, he's still pretty old school and he doesn't really like to upgrade the computers in our house. And we have a lot of old desktops. I was the first one to actually upgrade mine. I'd spent probably about $1,700 on the desktop I currently have. I got an 8-core, I got the i9 9900K. It's an 8-core processor. I got a new graphics card. I got 64 gigs of RAM. I got all the bells and whistles for it just for video editing. And the rest of my family has like 2 dual core processors. They have like really old graphics cards that don't have housings. It's just like the PCB, the motherboard style look that has like a tiny little fan on it. They have like 8 gigs of RAM tops, that stuff like that. And like my dad, again, he keeps it kind of old school, but I feel like it's always good to embrace some of this new stuff. And the reason why these things aren't that great is because they don't need these, like I was mentioning, housings on the graphics cards. And the reason why they don't need these housings is because they're old and they don't draw so much power that they get too hot. The housings you see on the newer graphics cards today that power like your new age video games, some of your 3D rendering, they need these housings, and they have these huge things on them called heat sinks. And these heat sinks draw the heat away from the graphics card so that way your computer components don't blow up into fire. So generally, if you see graphics cards with bigger housings, they typically will be the ones that draw more power and are more powerful in general.
So while not upgrading isn't necessarily a bad thing, it really sometimes can lead to a lot of security issues. That's just what I'm so passionate about. I will preach all day, every day about security.
I definitely agree with you.
But what a lot of people don't realize is when they get these notifications on their computers, on their desktops, on their phones, when they get these notifications to upgrade, you should do it like within the next few days, because the reason they're doing updates and stuff like that is to patch these holes where potential hackers can come in and like mess stuff up, and they can exploit your devices.
Yes.
So
when code sits too long, there definitely becomes security holes, and people take advantage of that and break into other people's devices and networks, and it could lead to data loss. You can get a ton of information stolen, social security numbers, bank account information, just other saved data even. It can be a huge issue. So like you said, it is very important to update as soon as you can.
And that not only the software, but when it comes to these older devices as well, like recently I fixed a Chromebook for my little sister, and this computer was bought in 2014. I had purchased it, and it was so old that it wouldn't even run the newest operating system version of
Chrome OS.
Yeah, of Chrome OS.
Wow.
So, which is crazy, because in my head, I'm thinking, I didn't really buy this that long ago. I should just fix this up and give it to my sister. So seeing that it wasn't even able to have the newest version of the operating system was kind of crazy to me. Because as I said, It's not that old.
Yeah, exactly. And for the fact that it can't even support the newest one, that definitely does pose a security threat.
Exactly. So when you have these older devices, some of them literally just cannot handle the newest versions. And for those of you who use Windows operating systems, so you use Windows 10, or all of you should be.
Exactly, yes.
But if you have these devices that are running Windows 7, Windows 8.1, any older version of Windows, they're not continuously updating those anymore. They like stop updating them. So whatever you have on there is whatever you have. So unless you update to Windows 10, but as I said, some of these devices can't. So
yeah, and I want to bounce off of that really quick. I know that the military does still have Windows security updates to their stuff, because the military recently updated to Windows 7. they were on Windows XP before, which was crazy. They cut support for that for the military, I believe, in 2017.
Mm-hmm.
But they cut Windows XP security support for the public a long, long time before that. And funny enough, my boss from IT, my old boss, he actually had an Acer desktop computer that had Windows 95 on it.
Oh my gosh.
And he told me, he's like, I don't dare hook that up to my internet because there's no security updates for that. And so he said he just uses it basically for a storage device for his files and stuff. And then I remember one day he came into work and he was kind of slumped over looking sad. I was like, dude, what's wrong, man? And he was like, my Acer computer blew up today. And it was I was like, oh yeah, it's from the early 90s.
That's so funny. It's kind of frustrating that you have to keep purchasing this expensive equipment. It puts the consumer in a really sticky spot because either you shell out multiple thousands of dollars for a good piece of hardware that you're going to use for 5 years until you have to buy another one. Mm-hmm. It kind of sucks. And then sometimes you can't even continuously update what you need to on there. So it just forces that obsoleteness.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I definitely feel you. And sometimes, like you said, if you can't shell out a ton of money to keep something for just 5 years, then you shell out just a little bit of money that's only up to date for like a year and a half. And then you have to keep continuously doing it. But again, like you said, not everyone can afford that. A lot of people have older tech because of that. And not all older tech poses a security threat. Like older routers for internet, they don't always pose security threats. They just are slower. Mm-hmm. Like if for some of you tech geeks out there, if you're familiar with 802.11ac internet, that's like some of the newer stuff. They even have 802.11ax. But some of the older routers, they'll use like the N bandwidth or the G bandwidth. And it's just like, that's the slower stuff. Mm-hmm. And some people still have those, which is fine. It's just not as fast.
Exactly. One thing that I haven't really thought about until now is just the environmental impact of this culture of having to constantly upgrade what you have and make things bigger and better and more efficient and stuff like that. On one hand, it's great, because we are advancing. Mm-hmm. But on the other hand, like, it has all of these negative impacts. Like, if there's somebody who's not as well off as another person, well, they're kind of like disenfranchised, you know what I mean? They can't afford this like technology. They can't afford this like newer security practices. They can't really afford that safety. And then on the other hand, as I was saying, the environmental impact of that, because I don't know about you guys, but I mean, there are countless things in my life that I've had technology-wise that I've had to get rid of because I can't even use it anymore because it doesn't work. And I just throw it away. And that's so much. And if you think about it, like, every other person in the world is doing that too. Like, that's just such a huge environmental toll that it's having on the planet.
Absolutely. As well. I remember I took a class when I was in college about that. It was an environmental justice class I took for an elective that was required. It was like a higher division elective I always hated doing those. But there was one article I wrote about how Intel was dumping their extra silicon chips, stuff that was old or didn't really work right. They were just dumping it in foreign countries, and it was just filling up their land and just causing it was poisoning the water supply. It's crazy. And because technology advances so fast, that is a growing issue in this world. And I don't know how we're going to fix it because technology just continues to grow faster and faster. I don't know if there's really a good way to do it other than like try to recycle, really. I think recycling has been pushed on the public a lot heavier in the last decade than it has been before.
I hate that. This is going to sound so stupid, but I hate that these companies put that responsibility on the consumer when it should be them.
Yeah, exactly.
Who are like, I should be recycling this stuff. I shouldn't be dumping my garbage in foreign countries for other people to worry about. Like, that should be their responsibility to take care of and recycle. Like, stop trying to like fearmonger the public because of what you're doing. Like, I'm totally down for recycling. If I could, I would do it out here. But they, for whatever reason, don't have a recycling program where I am, which I hate.
Really?
It sucks. Yes. Like, we would. When we were living in another state, we did it all the time. Like, we would fill it up. Sometimes we'd have more recycling than we would trash. But they put, like, these big companies put that responsibility on us as consumers, even though they're the ones making, like, a majority of this, like, pollution and garbage and all of this stuff. They should be taking accountability as well. So I think that that's messed up.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry to go off on that little rant, but I feel passionately about it.
I absolutely 100% agree with that. I don't know if there is a viable solution to fix all this right now, and I hope that there will be in the future.
I agree as well, because, I mean, just because of how capitalism is, you know what I mean? Like, you always hear the term capitalism breeds innovation, so
Right.
I don't really see that stopping anytime soon. I mean, it's just going to continue growing and growing. Because we can sit here right now in 2021 and we can think, like, what could they even invent next? Like, we are comfortable right now. I mean, I know me and you, we could sit here and be like, wow, we have virtual reality. We have all of these crazy innovations.
Yeah, we are living in the future.
And then teleport to 2031. And we're gonna be thinking about this moment right now, thinking, wow, we thought we had it good then. Look at us now.
Yeah, and that's why I do feel like accepting new technology is good, for the fact that technology is intended to make our lives easier, but it has made it harder on the older demographics because they have to keep up with all this. And like you said, if we were to teleport even 20, 30 years in the future, who knows? They may have a new kind of technology that we can't even fathom right now. Like how back in the 70s, they couldn't even fathom what the internet would be. Like, is there going to be a new thing like the internet that comes out in 20, 30 years or even just 5 years? I don't know. We can't even, like, it'd be crazy to even try to think about it. It'd be like thinking of a new color.
Exactly. Like, I remember being a kid, a young kid at that, and thinking about social media. We had stuff like MySpace, which I was too young to go on, but I had friends that had them. And then you think about all of these newer things now, and it feels weird to think about, like, the fact that almost nobody uses MySpace anymore unless you're some weird hipster who thinks they're, like, better than everybody else. I don't know. But
Right. Or just trying to live in the past.
Exactly. And then even now, I think there's some social media now that are slowly becoming obsolete, like, that we witness with our own eyes. Like, I think a good example that almost everybody listening will understand is Vine. We had Vine, right?
Yes.
And then once Vine went away, we had Musical.ly. And then Musical.ly turned into TikTok. And, like, you just see the rise of Vine and then the fall of Vine and then the rise of Musical.ly and then the fall of Musical.ly. And then you just see TikTok and it's huge. I think it's probably even bigger than Vine, I would say. I think TikTok is crazy.
Yeah, you're seeing, like, I would just go on there on just the main page and you're going to see stuff that has 2 million, 3 million likes just all the time. And that's just common to see. That's insane to me because you don't see that kind of stuff even on YouTube. And YouTube's been around since, what, 2007? 2005? I don't remember. It was one of those.
I know the first YouTube video was uploaded in 2007. I don't know if it was up before that, but...
Yeah, I think it was called Day at the Zoo, right?
Yep.
That's a good video.
So we have that example of this obsolete app coming into our lives just right before our eyes. We witness this timeline of these apps becoming obsolete.
Yeah.
Within, like, 10 years.
Yeah, so fast.
So fast. And there's other apps, like, maybe this is just because I'm old, literally 21, but Snapchat's a good one. I mean, I hardly use Snapchat anymore. I remember back in the day it was huge, but now I don't really feel like people are using Snapchat much. I mean, it's an occasional thing, you know? It's not as huge as it used to be. Like,
oh yeah, exactly.
The thing was, hey, can I get your Snapchat? But I think now Snapchat's just associated with, like, hookup culture and boys, you know?
Yeah, I definitely agree with that.
Like, hey, can you send a pic? Haha, what would you do if I was there with you right now? Mm-hmm.
Right, exactly. And I feel like for a long time it's had that kind of reputation, but I feel like more nowadays that's more of what it is. And I'll even go on the news page of Snapchat sometimes just to see what's there, and they'll have stuff that I saw on YouTube like 2 months ago. And it's just like, what? This is like really out of date. Why are they posting this now?
Exactly. There's another one that has affected me more, I guess. All of you alt people will know exactly what I'm talking about. Tumblr. It was huge when I was younger. Like, I remember so many controversies and so many posts and stuff that were on Tumblr that people are still making references to today. I remember going on Tumblr every single day. I would reblog stuff all day, every day. I wanted to be a Tumblr girl. Then, what was it, 2019 is when they... Sorry, this is not safe for work. They banned pornography, and then everybody left.
Yep.
And now almost nobody uses Tumblr. I had stopped using Tumblr a long time before that just because it was already a dying app.
Right.
Or website, as I would say. But that just became extremely obsolete because the only people who were really constantly posting on there were like sex workers and stuff like that. And then now they have OnlyFans and they have these cam girl websites and anything else to monetize their businesses with. So Tumblr has just become absolutely obsolete now that they've banned the one thing that was keeping them alive.
Exactly. Yep.
So I think those are just a few that I've noticed that are becoming more obsolete. I think TikTok right now it's getting huge. I want to see what's going to happen within the next 5 years, even with TikTok, what's going to happen. Because I've had my TikTok app since it was Musical.ly. Like, I didn't even, like, delete the app to get TikTok. It literally just automatically updated it to TikTok.
Wow. Yeah, I had downloaded Musical.ly back, I think it was 2016, and then I had uninstalled it because my phone was really slow, and I think that was the thing slowing it down the most. And then I just didn't keep up to date with stuff until probably about 2018. That's kind of when I started getting back into the groove of social media, and then I think that's around the time TikTok was like big, right? Like when it really started growing really fast.
I think so. You said 20 what?
2018.
2018. Yeah, I was there for like the OG TikTok. Like, there are so many things I remember just going on there because I was on there when it was like not cool to be on TikTok. I would watch these cringy people and I would like raid their live streams and ask them really weird questions because that's just how I am.
Yeah.
But it was just complete cringe content. And then it slowly shifted over into like, this is the cool thing now. This is in.
Yeah, exactly. And I remember, I believe it hit another spike when the pandemic started, right?
Oh, yes. I think these people went into quarantine, had nothing to do, and then they just started going on TikTok and like, wow, I need something to do with my time. And they just started becoming like bigger creators and stuff like that. And it's just kind of crazy to think about. Like, thinking about it now, I don't know how I've bypassed this system. I don't get ads on TikTok. Everybody talks about the ads. I'm like, I don't know what you're talking. I literally don't get ads on TikTok.
Really?
I'm going to say that and it's like listening to me now, but I don't get ads on TikTok and I don't know why.
Yeah, I absolutely do. So that's kind of weird. Maybe it's because you were there in the beginning. They're like, hey, we have an original customer.
I think so. I mean, it's literally been on my phone since, God, 2015.
Wow.
So to kind of wrap up this topic today, I do just want to say that I myself don't know how any of this will play out in the future. As we briefly talked about earlier, I don't really think there is any end in sight to this sort of growth of technology. I don't think that it's going to be stopping anytime soon.
Yeah, the growth of technology is just, it's insane to us, and projecting the future growth of it is nearly impossible. And again, I feel like it is important to accept new technology. It is intended to make our lives easier, but it does cause an environmental issue, which also is something to definitely consider as well.
If you can, just do your research on how to properly dispose of your technology or anything else in your life that has become obsolete to you and appropriately dispose of it or
Yes.
recycle it.
Exactly. And with that said, let's go ahead and move on to our segment. Welcome to the segment part of the episode where we talk about some of the responses you want for any advice. And just on a side note here, if you want to submit any requests, just go ahead and click on the Canva link on the bio of any of our social medias, and it'll also be linked in the description if you're watching on YouTube. But let's get into today's response, and it reads, how do you feel would be the best way to deal with racism in the workplace? I overheard 2 coworkers being racist towards a Hispanic individual. I don't want to start drama by telling my manager about it because I know they will deny saying anything racist and then they might treat me lesser. Any thoughts?
I have a lot to say about this one.
Ooh, let's hear it.
So I know that confrontation is hard for a lot of people. And I would assume since you are trying to ask for advice, you're probably the same way. So I am also very similar. I really try to avoid confrontation, but sometimes I feel like it's pretty necessary, especially when it's something pretty big like that, you know?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And I think it's good that you're trying to find out how to resolve this, because I don't think that's something that people should necessarily be getting away with, especially at work. I mean, it's wrong, but like, especially when you're in a workplace trying...
In a professional environment. Yes.
Yeah, trying to be professional. So, first of all, whoever you are, I'm very proud of you. Thank you for trying to get justice for this person. I don't know who this is, obviously, but I think it says a lot about your character if you're going to defend somebody who isn't there to defend themselves. So personally, what I would do, if this person was there and they were actively being spoken to in racist ways, I would go to this person and make sure they're okay. You know, I would make sure that they knew that somebody else was around and heard it, and just kind of comfort them, make sure that they know that it's not okay that they're spoken to that way and that you're there to help them, because I don't think that those people who were being racist should get away with that. And it's not okay for that person to be spoken to like that at all, ever.
Yes, exactly.
So if they were there to witness it, the first thing I would do personally is go to them, make sure they're okay, explain you heard everything, and if they need help, you're there to help them. And I would encourage them to say something and go with them if they need help, going to upper management and speaking to upper management about it. But if that person wasn't there and this is just you listening in on your 2 coworkers being racist, I would still say something. I would just go to your management and just say exactly what happened. Stay anonymous, do whatever, but let them know, hey, this behavior is not okay. I don't want to work in a workplace that is okay with this. So please do something about this. And if you can, find out if there's a way to anonymously report it, because that will also, depending on the situation of your workplace environment, some of those environments are like hostile work environments. So it's scary for you to come out and say, hey, this is what happened, because they're more inclined to trust the racists as opposed to somebody who's just a decent person. So
yeah.
I think you should just find the best way you can to anonymously report it. Or go to somebody you trust.
Yes, exactly.
Like an upper management. This is just from my experience. Don't trust HR. I'm sorry. They're not there to protect you. They're there to protect the company. So
that's fair. I definitely feel you on that one. But yeah, you definitely covered all the points I was even going to talk about, especially with the reporting anonymously. If I were in that position, I would definitely go to my manager and say, is there a way to report this anonymously to somebody else? Because I mean, my manager, I work in the IT department. I don't think he would necessarily handle that specific situation. He may bring it up with even like the associate deans of the college that I work at, or something with that. But again, yes, exactly. Just try to report anonymously if you feel like these 2 individuals will treat you lesser.
Yeah, I think it's the worst when you try to call out these sort of like injustices that you see happening and then nothing happens, and then you then have that that pushback from the two racist employees because you're just trying to do the right thing and you're wanting equality in the workplace, you know?
Right.
So just make sure that you're kind of protecting yourself as well. It's so stupid that I even have to say that, you know what I mean? Like, make sure that everything is okay, you know? Like, it's stupid that it has to even be done. Like, you should just be able to say, hey, that's racist. Don't say that. That's messed up.
It's really sad to see that these sort of things do go down in the workplace, and it's just terrible.
But yes, just to summarize what I said, if the person was there and heard everything and was just literally being bullied, go to them, make sure they're okay, go report it. But if they were not there, just try your best to find a way to report it anonymously and go to the right channels to report it. Don't just go to some random person in your upline that you don't really know, because that's where things can get really sticky quick. So
Absolutely. Yes. And that's very well said. I'm glad you had a lot of input on that, because I was kind of at a block. I personally don't exactly know what I would have done other than report anonymously, but you definitely brought a lot of views to this, and I'm sure that whoever submitted this is definitely more well informed on this.
This is just from what I've experienced. I mean, I've obviously never had anything racist happen to me at work, but I've had people pick on me at work, and it sucks. I mean, you can't really even equate that to like racism, but I know what it feels like to kind of be picked on at work. So that's what I would want someone to do, to be like, make sure I'm okay and report it appropriately.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't feel like people should just kind of get away with being jerks and being racist and sexist and mean. So I think that reporting is definitely the best way to go.
Absolutely. Yep. And I really do wish you the best of luck on this if you do report anonymously, or whatever course of action you do take.
I know it can be kind of hard sometimes, especially when you're not really sure how the backlash is going to hit or if you are going to receive backlash. So I really do wish you luck on that. Like, that's very hard, and that's a tough situation to kind of be in.
Yeah, exactly.
But thank you so much for your submission. I really appreciate it. If anybody else has any submissions they want to send in for advice, as we stated before, click the Canva link and then click submissions, and then you'll have 3 different options to choose from. Also, if you had any interesting stories you wanted to tell, or you had some topics that you're just so passionate about and you want to chat with us, fill out the interview form. We would love to have you on the podcast. We are always looking for people to come join us and chat with us for a day.
Yeah, we'd love some collaboration. That'd be awesome.
So just make sure, do the same thing that you would for the advice. Just click the Canva link, click submissions, and then click the interview link and just fill out the form. Just make sure to leave your personal information there so we can contact you. But yeah, thank you guys so much for listening today. We really appreciate you guys, and we love seeing you guys interact with our content. So if you would, please like, subscribe, and comment on our videos. We really need interactions.
Yes.
It really does a lot for our channel. So besides that,
We'll catch you on the next one.
stay sunny.
Stay sunny.